Probably garden gnomes or something. Or target practice, yes. A much cooler one is this Ewok, which is kind of strange pose. I couldn't figure out this pose, and then it dawned on me that it's probably based on a Laughing Buddha statue, which is probably another popular ceramic store thing. The Laughing Buddhas are popular religious kind of decorative things. But if you look at his feet and his hands and the smile, I think someone just put fur on it, sculpted fur onto it, and then added ears of a cow and made it into a wicket or a Ewok, whatever it is. This one is a giant bank. This is probably over a foot tall. It's really heavy. It's the only one I think I've ever seen. It's got 3 fingers and 3 toes on each limb, which is kind of odd. Here's the back, where you can see the coin slot. And like I said, some of these things are signed, so Mr. CV optimistically copyrighted this in '83, even though he didn't have any authorization to make this, but at least there's just some history on it. So E.T. was big in the 80s. I bet you didn't know R2-D2 could fly a flying saucer, but I guess if you can handle it next to me, a flying saucer is not a big deal. But I'm guessing this was also an E.T. item, or maybe just a generic sci-fi lamp, and you could swap the figure out, and it can turn into a Star Wars or whatever you wanted it to be. And the R2 is actually a separate piece, and it attaches to the moon base there. And when you light it up, the whole thing lights up like a spaceship. This is probably the most common one of these things. It's a lamp. Sometimes you see in these banks. Usually they have a lightsaber, and the lightsaber will light up when you turn it on. This one just has some cutouts on the limbs and on the chest. And it's also interesting because it's on that big base. Usually they don't have a base. Here's another Darth Vader bust. Pretty crude, but it's big. This is a really large, like about a foot tall. It's hollow, it lights up like a lamp. You don't see these too often. I think it's properly modeled on the NPC Snap Together bust, so someone probably took that as their inspiration. This is a really odd piece. This is actually not something this is a one-of-a-kind, and artist made this on Long Island. I think it's actually modeled up out of ceramic somehow, so it's not cast. It's actually sculpted in some kind of drying ceramic, and it's got an interesting kind of artsy quality about it, but it's very odd looking too. And this is about 1.5 feet tall and weighs about 50 pounds. It's solid, and it's painted pretty painted pretty well, I should say. On the back, it's got a cape that's kind of actual cloth that's been soaked in plaster and then modeled on there, so it could look like it's flowing fabric. And that's just an example of a one-of-a-kind kind of weird folk art item that's out there that you can look for stuff like this all day.